Hey, how's it going? It is like almost 80 degrees still, and I'm out of work, and so I'm going to do 30 minutes of walking every night just around the buildings that I live in. And I figured while I'm doing that, I could do my mindful message. And I think that today I have to do 3 of them. That's how I'm going to mark my 30-minute walk, by the way. I'm going to talk about this dark heaviness collectively as far as politics go, but I'm not going to talk about politics. I'm just going to express the intensity that people have when it comes to their political beliefs, and it's very important because people attach change and hope to these political leaders. But what happens when every choice you're given is 1, a setup, and 2, demonic? The whole nature of it all, in my opinion, the way we kind of, sorry, I'm going to stick to the sidewalks because everybody's starting to come home. So I think a lot of the separation between people, and it even happens inside families and friend groups, at work. That's why a lot of workplaces don't allow you to talk about politics. It's just like an instant divide, because you're either choice A or choice B or choice C, right? There's not very many options to put yourself into a figurative belief system. But as I said, people attach politicians to their hope and their hope of change, because that, I think, is what is stirring everybody. The need for change, the need to have better, not only for ourselves but for our futures. Like, I'm middle-aged. I'm going to be 40 this summer, so I feel like in my age group collectively we're starting to think about retirement. And our parents are getting older. Like, my parents are both, within a year or 2 of retiring, and like how hard they've worked their whole life, and seeing the fear on their faces because they don't know what's going to happen, and they don't know if they saved enough with the rising cost of things. And that's setting our age group off. Like, I don't want to be in that predicament. Are we even going to be able to retire? Is there going to be a 401k for us? And so in that age group, I think a lot of our change stems from wanting to be more prepared for our future, because we are getting older. We care more about health care. We care more about vacation time. We care more about what benefits are we getting, and how many years have I put into this job, or how many years am I willing to put in. And if I give you the last, 10 or 20 years of my career, what's going to come out of it? Am I going to be okay? So I think a lot of the unrest and anger mostly comes from this generation, because I saw my grandparents, and I was in a very lucky situation that they were very financially set off. My grandparents never had to worry about money, but my parents have always had to worry about money. My parents had my oldest sister, their first child, in my mom's senior year. My dad was done with school, but she was pregnant at her high school graduation. So it's like she's constantly had to, and back then, being a pregnant teenager, she was shunned. Her own parents kicked her out. She moved in with my dad's parents. They're all good now, everybody's good, but that's just how it was back in the day. Like, they were shamed into being married. I don't think my parents ever wanted to be married. So I know, going back financially, they did things very differently when my grandparents were alive. They had more opportunities for expansion in America, because business, although it was difficult, it was so much easier to start something. And like my grandpa built his empire out of the construction business, so he built an entire village and then went on to build another one. So he earned his money. I'm not saying he didn't, but I'm like my parents in the sense I started out behind. I didn't come from money. I came from the hood. I had to educate myself and get myself out of it. So now here I am in middle age looking at my life, and my parents, who came from the same as me, they did better my life. You know, we started off in a really rough place, and by the time I was a teenager, we were in a nicer area, but unfortunately, my parents had to hustle and grind for that. It didn't come easy. And I'm the same way. Like, I've been hustling and grinding, and the same question over and over: is it enough? Is it going to be enough? And let's bring it back to politics. So they pick the politician who best serves that. Are we going to be okay? And we're voting off of that, off of the hopes that if we invest in this person, if we stand behind them, that they're going to take into consideration what we are enduring. But the fact of the matter is, it's not isolated to my parents or myself. A lot of Americans are in this spot. There's always a poor class, there's always a middle class, there's always wealthy. And I think anybody who gets to middle age is always in that predicament, and they know, as politicians, how to play into that. So I ask of you, instead of listening to things as political beliefs, look at it as their fear. What are they really saying? I don't have great health care, and I'm fearing that if I don't have great health care, I'm going to have health problems, and what if I can't work? This country isn't going to support me. So that's their fear. So they're picking a political grouping in their mind that is going to take that fear of that away. Well, this presidential-elect is advocating for health care, and he deems that important, like I deem it important. So we're basing our political beliefs off of, one, our fears, two, what we hope to change, what do they stand by, what is their mission. But that's all well and dandy, and that brings people comfort and peace, and every election brings this sense of new hope that change is going to come, and I really hope every time that it does happen for my people. But I have far exceeded it's a failed system, it's a failed objective, because time and time again, since the beginning of this whole political party, everybody has had 4 years, which usually stems into 8 years. And yes, great things have been done and implemented. But when the next president comes into play, the first thing they usually do is take what was implemented and change it or alter it. Like, everybody applauds Obama for creating Obamacare. But after he was done, they ripped it apart. It was a failed system. They just kept the name because it would have cost more in advertising to change it. So was it actually a success? No, and I'm not just saying that for one political party. Every politician is like that. They have always had something that they promised to the people, and usually, most of the time, it's rushed out because they made that promise and they don't give it the right consideration when they promise it, realizing they only have 4 years to implement what they're saying. And I want you to listen with 4 years in mind, because they stem off 5, 6, 7, 8 things that they want to do in these debates, and each of those things will take a year at a time. So all of those things that they're giving to you, I would say at most they're going to pull off 3. And think about all of the things they're saying and take out the 3 easiest, because they always go for the cheapest, the easiest, and the least effort, because they also have to deal with current events. and what's on their plate, and that's overwhelming for the president. That's why not much gets accomplished. It's a perpetuated failure of a system due to time constraints